Hello, beautiful people. How are you all doing? So, my taste buds have been traveling lately, and today we are in Jamaica. Yes, we are. I am making this beautiful, flaky, and yet very moist in the inside beef patty. Okay, look at how it breaks apart. You know it is going to be good. If you're interested in finding out how I make this, stay tuned and let's do it. So I am starting off with about 2.5 cups of plain flour. I will list everything in the description box below. And to this I am adding 1 teaspoon of sugar. Don't worry, it is not going to be sweet at all. And also 1 teaspoon of baking powder. I will then add in some salt and some curry powder as well, because this is going to give it a nice flavor. Okay, and we all know that beef patties are known for its yellow bright color, so I am adding some turmeric. It's not going to make much difference in taste wise, but it's going to give it that nice yellow color that you have when you buy a beef patty. So I'm just going to mix everything up, and then we will get started by adding all the other ingredients as well. So I have got some lard and some butter, unsalted butter. I am going to be adding a combination of the two, and this is going to give us that nice flaky crust that we are looking for in this beef patty. And I do so by cutting up in smaller chunks into the flour, because the trick is not to melt the butter and the lard. So you're trying to cut it up in smaller chunks so that it's easier, quicker to add it into the flour, so you don't melt it. Okay, you have to make sure that you don't melt this. Usually I will use my pastry cutter to mix this up when I'm making like meat pies and stuff like that. However, I am trying to remain some of the chunks into the flour. This is going to give me that crust, that flakiness that I'm going after. Okay, so I'm not going to make it into a total like crumbly texture. Okay, so as you can see, you can still see the butters in there. So I'm adding cold water little by little until I am able to form a nice dough. Not a very soft one, but a firm dough. Please be sure to be quick and, so that you don't melt the butter. I am adding a little bit of turmeric as I realized that it wasn't as yellow as I wanted it to be, so I'm just adding it a little bit of turmeric. If you don't want it as yellow, don't worry about this step at all. So I'm adding the water literally gradually because I don't want it to be too wet, so add it little by little as you go along until you achieve a nice dough ball together. And please be fast, don't melt the butter at all. So now that I have a nice bowl, I'm not going to knead it for too long, because if you knead it, you'll activate the gluten and it will become tough. You don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to place this into a cling film and I will put this in the fridge to chill for about half an hour, and then I will work on my filling. So for my filling, I have 500 grams of beef mince, and I'm going to be adding some paprika powder into this, a little bit of onion granules, some thyme, beef seasoning, garlic granules, some Chinese 5 spice, some black pepper of course, some soy sauce, And I'm also going to be adding in a bit of oyster sauce. Some people use ketchup, but I'll use oyster sauce in mine. You can use any seasoning of your choice, to be honest, but this is what I am using, and I will list everything in the description box below. And then finally, I am adding in some all-purpose seasoning. I'm going to mix this all together, and doing it this way also helps you break up the mince, you know, because when you cook it, it's just going to come out chunky. So when you do this method, it's going to help you break it up before you fry it, okay? So to start with, I've just put some oil in my hot skillet. You can use any oil of your choice. And then I am adding in some onions. I am going to be frying this for about 1 to 2 minutes until it's nice and translucent. Then I'm going to be adding in my beef, my very well seasoned beef. And I'm going to allow this to cook for about 5 minutes. So after about 5 minutes, I am adding in some browning sauce, because when you buy a beef patty, you do notice that the inside is quite dark. So I'm using a browning sauce to achieve that darkness. And then I am also adding in some carrot for more flavors, of course. Mixing everything together and allowing this to fry off some more. So after about 10 minutes, I am adding in some flour, and then I will also add in a little bit of water just to make sure that the filling is nice and moist, okay, so it doesn't look dry or feel dry when it comes out of the oven. So to do this, you have to add in a bit of flour, all-purpose flour, and a bit of water, and allow this to cook, okay, and it will achieve this nice thick consistency, and it will also make sure that your filling is nice and moist. So now my filling is ready. I eventually just drained some of the fat off the meat because it just rendered quite some fat, even though it was a low fat beef, but I did render some of the fat off the meat, okay? So now that my pastry has nicely chilled, I'm going to be putting some flour onto my work surface to get ready to roll out my dough. So because I don't want to activate the gluten and overwork the dough, I am just going to be cutting the dough up in smaller sizes to what I need to roll out for each pie, so that I don't melt the butter for one, and also activate the gluten, okay? You want to achieve a nice and flaky crust. You don't want it to be too hard, because if you work the dough too much, you will achieve a hard crust, and you don't want that, okay? Make sure you some flour because it's going to stick a little bit, because the butter is still not fully incorporated into the flour, okay? Because you can see some of the butter in there, so it's going to be a bit sticky. So just add a little bit of flour as you roll your dough out. So as you can see the butter in there as I'm pointing now. This is going to give it that nice flake that we are after, okay? So I am using a pie cutter just to cut out the shape. You can just use any round bowl or any shape that you so desire, okay? And then I'm just gonna go ahead and do the remaining of the dough. So now I'm ready to put in my filling onto my pastry, and I'm just going to be adding the filling just like a bit. You can overfill it if that's what you like, but use as much filling as you want. I've also got some egg and a little bit of cold water as an egg wash, and I'm going to be using this also to seal off my pie. I'll be using a fork to seal this off and give it, you know, a nice form that you see when you see a beef patty, okay? And then I'm just going to go ahead and do the remaining. So the next step is to make some holes into the pie. This is to make sure that the inside of the pie cooks nicely and also it doesn't burst up or explode when it's in the oven. And then I'm going to give this a nice egg wash, and that will give it a nice, you know, color on top of your beef patty. Then I'm going to be baking this in the oven on 160 degrees for about 25 minutes to 30 minutes. So after about half an hour, here we are. Look at how gorgeous, okay, gorgeous, I have to say, this beef patty looks. Okay, look at that, it's evenly cooked, it's just so good. Okay, and yes, I am going to be opening it so that you can see how it looks from the inside. You can tell, look at how flaky this crust is when I cut into the beef patty. Look at this. Okay, I'm sure it's enticing and you want to make some, so hurry up and make some beef patty. Let's go to Jamaica together, okay? Look at that. Look at how flaky the crust is. How, oh, guys, it is really good, and you have to try this recipe, okay? I'm just going to show you one more time how good this pie looks, because, well, I said pie, this beef patty look, okay, because it is really nice. Yes, look at how easily it breaks off. You have to give this a try. And yes, that little piece went into my mouth, and I can assure you it was really good. I hope you give this recipe a try and let me know what you thought of it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed, and thank you for watching. Give this video a thumbs up and I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.